It used to. We are live. All right. You've tuned into Plane in Traffic. Long Island's only true automotive talk show that's in Ohio and Maryland and wherever the heck you are. But I'm on Long Island, so that's where the show starts from tonight. Louis Lee is taking a little personal time. He's going to spend some time with his grandkids, so I can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with your hosts, Ray Guarino and Matt Goman Bryan.
Yeah, we're here.
We will try and keep it real. We'll talk about topics of the day. So Lewis put up a teaser for the show about the prices of tires. And Brian, you had shared a video with me that I was going to use this on the radio show on Motormouth Radio. It actually won't be this week because I do have a guest coming on. A guy that wrote the Corvette book is coming on. We'll talk about him in a little bit. He's an interesting guy. But yeah, California's new tire rule exemptions. Leave it to California, right? They had three parts of their plan. It's always a trident, right? Three prongs. They had limited production tires that fewer than 15,000 miles a year is the first stage. The second that they're exempting is, and the limited production could be, sport tires, things like that. The second one is tires smaller than 13 inches or less. And like we were just discussing off air, I have to find 14-inch this year, which is going to could be a problem. So I'll report on that later. So 13 or less, that's going to be like trailer tires for like small trailers. I mean, damn, man, there's plenty. There's thousands of those around. And full competition or track tires and dedicated deep snow tires. Now that's freaking ridiculous, because, all right, all the other tires you could say, well, all right, they're on muscle cars or restored cars. We don't care about them. And anything with 13-inch tires, we don't care about the guys with the small cars either. And full competition, yeah, you guys can go suck wind. We don't care. But deep dedicated snow tires, that's a safety issue. I ran 4 snow tires on my Mazda when I had it, my Mazda 3. I put them on every year at the first snow. And I tell you, that car was like, it had like goat hoofs in the snow. They cost more money. I put them on dedicated steel wheels, but it was a lifesaver. And if more people would use them, there'd be less accidents in the winter. So that's a damn safety issue,
Yeah.
So it tells you where the head's at. They don't care.
Yeah. Well, I did that with my Quattro, my Audi. Of course, it's all-wheel drive, but I put snow tires on that. Like I said, and that climbed walls and trees, and like I said, I could take a shortcut, through the valley instead of the road to Grandma's house. You know what I'm saying? I mean, having that type of traction. But again, like I said, I just, I guess the biggest thing is, low profile, and not the low profile, but the environment. They bring up to save the environment and fuel with low resisting rolling tires, and of course the price just goes through the roof.
Right.
And it's funny, I go into a Tesla dealership and they got special tires, and people don't want to pay that price to go try to put something else on, and it's just a can of worms how it goes.
That's the thing a lot of people don't realize. You get an EV or you get a hybrid, and they have that special compound low rolling resistance tire, and that plays into the mileage that you get.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they first find out, like, what? How much is a tire? Well, yeah, if you want to keep those specs up and get that kind of mileage, that's what you got to do. Years ago, my daughter was looking for an SUV, so we were shopping around, and she did her homework, and we were kind of looking at RAV4s or Hondas. She ended up buying a RAV4, and we looked at one of the dealer's lot. I said, okay, nice. I think it was a 2013 or 14, and it had a window sticker on it, so I'm reading it. It had all the options, and one of the things it said was run flat tires. And it's like, I know they switched over in that year. So I looked at the tires And then I told my daughter, I said, yeah, it's got run flats. She goes, oh, all right, because it didn't have the spare tire on the back. And she wanted a car with a full-size spare.
Yeah.
So I said, well, let's see. I opened up the back. I want to see if there was any kind of a spare kit or anything. That no nitrogen kit, no nothing. But the tires on the car were not run flats. So, and this is what I explained to her. I said, this is what will happen. This car is probably traded in off of a lease. And I said, at that point, the car needed tires. And the person found, the tire guy told her, well, this needs run flats that are going to cost you, at the time, maybe, $180, $200 a piece, where regular tires will cost you, maybe 120, 130. And they said, oh, no, just put on 4 regular tires. I'm trading it in.
Yeah.
So now we see the disparity, because obviously the window sticker that was on this car was a copy of the original window sticker.
Yeah.
So we go in and we're doing it was the funniest thing. It was me, my wife, my 2 daughters, and then the salesman, Mr. Slick salesman. And he sits there and he starts talking to me. I said, all right, well, listen, let me explain something. I said, I'm here for technical advice and moral support. I said, my daughter over here, this is who you're going to talk to. I said, she's looking to buy the car. It's going to be her money. And she has some questions. Oh, okay. Oh, good, Dad. Yeah, very good. Teach you how to, yeah. Give me the whole. So she starts asking him questions, and he's answering everything. And he keeps coming down to, he just kept always railroading her into, well, how much do you want to pay a month?
Yeah.
And she was going to, we're going to work out a loan just to pay for this thing outright. And he wouldn't come off of that, and I finally told him, I said, listen, I'll save you boring you with this went on for like, 15, 20 minutes. And I said, she knows what she's doing. I said, she's not going to use financing. She knows what she's doing. And she's going to be, going to be paying for this car outright. Oh, okay. Well, because most people want to know, and they want to be in a car. I said, I know what most people want. I said, this is going to be like that. So he was just pissing us both off. Yeah, we were all, and my wife's sitting there just waiting for the hammer to fall. She knows it's going to fall, but she doesn't know when. Mm-hmm. And I kind of even forgot how badly it went, but we were getting hot and we were ready. So she says to him, that is that vehicle true to the the sticker that's on it? Everything is the way it should be. Oh yeah. Our cars are guaranteed. Everything is the way it should be. She says, I think you got a problem with whoever makes your stickers. What do you mean? And she dropped them. She goes, the car's supposed to have run flat tires. It says so on the sticker, and they're not run flats on the car. How do you know? You can't know that. What do you mean? And he gets up and in a huff, he goes outside and he looks, and he comes back, and she said, yeah, I was right. It doesn't have run flats. He goes, oh, that must have been a misprint. Somebody must have. He's every excuse in the book, right?
Yeah.
So now he's gonna try and work with the price a little bit if you want the car, and at the end of the day, we didn't buy it from him. We left. I said, you know what, with a guy like, but he kept going back to me, and I kept saying, no, talk to her, and she kept nailing him. And I said, you got to realize this is a girl who knows what she's looking for. She did her research. I said, and she knows what she wants. I said, it's not up to me. So the slick salesman, had his day, and he got taken to task. But that just goes to show you, you got to always be vigilant, and you got to know what's going on and what you're buying. And those run flats are expensive. The Corvettes come with them. They're expensive tires.
Well, that's like early on, I had gotten a LX Mustang. It was like an 84, and it had the new V6 motor, and it had like the GT platform on it, and it had the tri wheels on them or whatever.
Okay.
But they were metric. They were 360 degree. They were.
Oh yeah.
They were so, and the only person at that time that made those wheels were Michelin's.
Right.
And it was only like on a BMW. Now, granted, when I was working at the Porsche Audi dealer and BMW, I got a lot of tires that were takeoffs, because a lot of times people would buy just 4 and then you could dig through the pile and find a couple good ones to put on. But I remember the first time when I needed tires for that, and I was like, holy crap, and that was a lot of money back then because it was such a unique tire.
Right.
But, just going back to kind of staying on our basics, just again, anything to throw a curveball trying to prevent any kind of repair or fixing or doing has just become, a major thorn in us car guys' side, and what are you going to do? You can't stockpile tires. What are you going to go out and buy tires and let them sit unless you could really keep them from getting UV'd or an environment. They're not going to last forever.
Well, that's the thing. You can't. And like I said, even my car was in a garage. And I know a lot of people, I've seen a lot of cars like this. The 442 I worked on a while ago, the tires were 20 something years old and they look the Impala that I just did, that car, the tires were put on the car in 2010. It still had the blue, on the white letters, I'm like, because it was in a storage unit and it had never been out in the sun. So you can't go by that because the rubber does lose, it loses its, the oils and all wick out just due to heat, temperature changes, and age. Yeah. So now I'm driving my Fiat. And like I said, the tires on there, I got to change them. They're on, I did look at the date code. I think it was 2005 or maybe it wasn't that maybe is a little too far. Yeah, maybe it was a little after that. But regardless, the sidewalls look fine, and I drive the car and I still corner it hard. I haven't blown a tire off the rim, but will it happen next time out? I don't know.
You talk about having bad luck, and this is something that we don't think about, but the spare tire. Yeah. I had a it was a full size tire, but it was a spare, it was what is it called?
Space saver?
Space saver. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and this was in my Quattro, and I'll never forget, I'm cruising down the road and tire, I had a flat tire. So I pulled off the side of the road, get out, get my tire out. And, thank God it had air in it, because how many times do we check the air in the spare tire? I know you do all the time, but I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, at least once a year. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, I throw it on the car, and I was late for, I had to go meet the accountant and take care of some stuff. So I run up there and get done, and, we kind of joked about, well, on the way home, I blowed the spare tire out. The spare tire came apart. So,
right.
I'm like, holy crap, that's kind of weird. So,
yeah,
make a phone call, get a ride. And I had another Quattro, or I didn't have a Quattro. I had another Audi, another 4000. So I take the spare out of that and run up, get the tire on, bring it home. And I said, okay, well, I'll just get some tires. Call my buddy up, get some tires. And that one, so I blew 3 out with all in a wow. And I guess because they were all 30 years old, I guess even the spare doesn't last forever. So
yeah, no.
Should have played the lotto on that of see how long more blown tires.
When you mention checking the tire, I am nuts about that. I check the tire pressures all the time. And even when I get a rental car to go down south, I wait for it to cool down the driveway, and I'll go out there and check the pressures. And the last one I had was a GMC Terrain, and the tire pressures were all off. I think they were supposed to be at 35 on that vehicle, and one of them was like 42, the other one was 32, whatever. But when I got to the spare, it did have a spare tire, a space saver, which should be 60 pounds. It was at 29 pounds. Wow. I was like, dude, it was a 2025 GMC. It's like, what, they take it off the production line with like no air in it? How did that get to 29 pounds?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe somebody was stuck underwater with it and they had to use the air to breathe. I don't know. But
that has to taste nasty.
Yeah, it does. But you know what? If you're stuck in an overturned car, that's going to keep you alive.
Well, maybe it was like the old Volkswagens, and that's what they used for the rear windshield washer fluid.
Yeah, right. So back to this tire thing, the mid-tier tires, which is the ones that are kind of not the really cheapos, El Cheapos that you would get at like Pep Boys. Actually, a lot of people like Pep Boys tires now, but they were always looked at as El Cheapos. So not the real bargain base ones, but the mid-tier tires, which is what most people buy. They're not buying. I mean, some people are, of course, BMWs, Mercedes, and even on their resto mods and hot rods, they're buying good tires. But a lot of people on their daily drive, they just say, no, give me something I can afford. So they're banned under this California law. And that comprises 70 to 90% of the market of tires.
Yeah.
So how insane is that? Now, they gave an example. They said in sizes 14, 15, and 16 inch, they right now they cost about $199 a tire, which I think is a lot. I don't think they cost that much here. In fact, I know they don't. Soon they say it'll be $299, and in the future they're projecting they'll be $499 a tire. Now I don't know where they get that information from, so I don't know if it's correct, but they did say that California, a lot of states will, well, not a lot, but certain states will follow what California does. Out here on the East Coast, that's true, and they project that Washington and Rhode Island may follow the suit soon with that kind of insanity. So I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of, it's laughable if it wasn't so damn serious or sad. But
well, like I said, it's just, like I said, what's the next thing?
I always wondered, you see piles of tires everywhere in shops and tire warehouses. There's a ton of them, and it was a problem what to do with them. And I know here back in the late 80s, early 90s in the city, what they were doing is they were grinding them up and mixing them in with the macadam and paving the roads with them.
Yeah.
They also used glass because we had a lot of glass that we couldn't get rid of. So you drive through the city at night and the road would kind of sparkle. You'd see the pieces of glass embedded in the road. So I think they stopped doing both of those things. But
they use them for the playground. They grind them.
Yeah.
And they put them
Mats.
in for that soft floor or whatever type thing. Well, like I said, here it's absolutely insane. You can't to get rid. I think what it is, you're only allowed six tires a year to take to the dump, and of course, back in the old days, they would go by the tag on your vehicle. So, like you said, he came in, said, "Hey, I got tires." They run your tag to make sure you live in the county that you said you lived in to come into the place that you're going into. And then they said, "Oh, okay, how many? 6? Oh, okay, you're at your limit, blah, blah, blah." And then I just go home, get in another car and go back up because, when you have 5 cars and they all have 4 tires, and it never fails. You think, either you're only replacing 2 at a time on a car, so you're constantly doing, or you decide, hey, I want to do 4. And then, one of your daughter comes home and says they ran over something and, destroyed the tire, and you're always buying,
right.
You always end up with more than 6 for the year. So they finally changed it. Now it's with your license. Now you got to go check in, and now they,
well, you got to be like the day workers. You have to get like 3 licenses.
Well, I don't. We can't talk about.
Yeah, I know.
I got 13. 13 different licenses, and
I know. Here, I mean, the one way around that is if you do bring your vehicle in for service, and a tire shop, they take the tires off and they dispose them. You pay a tire disposal fee,
right?
But I mean, hey, now they're charging you for chemicals and rags and everything anyway. They're
Yeah, but even here, like they like some of the my tool truck. Okay, when I go up to my buddy's shop to change tires, the guy that picks up the tires won't pick up big truck tires.
Really?
They can't get. So he's like, dude, you got to take these tires. You can't leave them here.
Wow.
Because they won't take them, and they will also, of course, this is I don't want to really get deep, but they have that federal tax for that, where you got to pay $5.99 a tire or whatever. Half these places are charging the person another $10 because the guy's charging them X amount. They used to buy the tires to get the program. It's like waste oil. They used to pay you for your waste oil.
I was going to say it was just like waste oil, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now you have to pay them to come get it.
Right.
So they lure you into the web by saying, "Oh, we're going to pay you for doing this," and we're like, "Yeah," and then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, by the way, you owe us money now for this."
Yeah,
and you can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
So,
but again, with parts, the same thing with parts. We were talking about that, and I was just talking this guy who's coming on the show Sunday, Chris Petrus. He wrote a book about C4 Corvettes. And I found over the years, I get a lot of these guys on as interviews, and there was a guy a couple of years ago did a GTO restoration book, 64 to 67. I said, okay, right up my alley. I'm in the middle of a restoration. And I talked to the guy beforehand, and I was asking him some specific questions. And he goes, oh, no, Ray. He goes, let me explain something. He says, I don't work on these cars. He says, I went to different shops who were working on them, and I took the photographs, and I just write I write the articles I make the book out of. So he didn't know anything about restoring a car. He just had a lot of cool pictures, and he knows how to write because he's an author. I was like, shit. Well, anyway, this guy Chris is different. He does work on stuff, and he has his own business, Chris Petrus Enterprises, and he makes. Well, they don't make from scratch, but they sell OptiSpark distributors for the LT1s and high performance water pumps, and he gets them in pieces from different suppliers and then assembles them to his specs so that they're now more of a high performance, longer lasting version. So he was saying that he was at SEMA, and he said he buys water pumps, and a lot of the stuff comes from overseas, and his typical order could be like, what did he tell me he would order originally? I think he said it could be like maybe 200 at a clip. Now they want him to order like 1,000. He's like, 1,000? This is like, wow. He goes, that's a pretty big order. He goes, I 200 at a time. I can keep enough on the shelf. I know how my inventory moves. He goes, there's only so many of these cars out there, but they're putting a push on him. He didn't know why. So we'll see if he wants to talk about that a little. What's that?
I'm sorry, Ray, but that's corporate America. That's volume now. This is we just went through this with the tool here. They want us for volume, and that's what they want to sell. And I got a buddy, same thing. Owns a 7-Eleven. Talk to him. A guy, one of my friends or a buddy of mine, owns a gas station. They've changed all that. It's all about volume and sales, and they want you to become the warehouse.
Yeah, right. That's kind of what they were telling him, pretty much. So, So it was funny because we were talking. I said, I have an Impala with an LT1, same engine, and I said, actually, I got to take it out, go for inspection this week. I said, and I'm tracking down a crazy problem, and I explained to him how I'll go out there right now after that car not being started for months, and it'll just fire right up. It'll fire right over. It's still it's only got 23,000 miles on it. But when I drive it around enough and get it, get the engine heated up, on the next restart, it doesn't want to start. It just cranks. So I found that by pushing the gas pedal down a bit, adding air, I can make it start. So I'm thinking it's an IAC issue. That's why when you pulled out that tester last week, my eyes lit up. So he started asking me if I had checked IAC counts and all, and I said no, because I didn't have a tester to do that with. But he says to me, you know what? It's most likely the throttle body. And I said, well, interesting you say that, because about 2 years ago, when this problem started, I took the throttle body off and I cleaned it. It wasn't really dirty, but I cleaned it anyway, put it back on. I said, now, when I took it off, there's a throttle body gasket between the throttle body and the intake. So I go to the local auto parts store up here by me, who's very, very good. They didn't have a throttle body gasket, and they told me it was discontinued. I said, discontinued for a Chevy LT1? Are you kidding me? And he says, yeah, it's not on the book. It says discontinued. I'm like, you got to be, really? I mean, like, so luckily I was able to reuse the original gasket because it didn't rip or anything. But, I like to put a new gasket in when I take something apart.
Yeah.
And that blew me away. Now I said, I know.
Was that a rubber ring? Was that like a rubber O-ring, or was that a paper, like a thin paper? What kind of gasket was that?
Yeah, I think it was a thin paper. Yeah, I think it was a thin paper gasket.
You had to go back to the old days and go get your box of Fruit Loop and draw it out and cut it out and make them like we used to with a cereal box.
Everything that's old is new again. Things have been coming around. Lewis has been talking about the 3D printers, and he's trying to get me into one. And, I see the stuff that you can do. At the cruise night I was at Tuesday, my buddy who has a Gasser Falcon, we were talking, and it just came around to 3D printing. So he showed me, he's got the same kind of 3D printer Lewis has, and he showed me all these pictures of stuff he makes, socket rails, wrench rails, and you name it. And I said, yeah, man, now I'm getting it from two sides. And I said, I told him one of Lewis's machines actually has a laser cutter in it. So you could laser cut gaskets. I said, that'd be so much easier than the punch and the X-Acto knife, So I said that alone is a cool thing to have.
Yeah. But, I got a handful of customers that are really getting into it, and like I said, they keep telling you need to get this so you can do that, and so you can do this and do that, and
right.
It is amazing, especially as technology goes. They got metal. You can make metal parts now.
Right.
Right. If you have the, like I said, my biggest problem is the knowledge of programming that. I guess it's great when you can just pop it in, but me playing with computers, what happens when I program? It's going to turn into a redhead with big parts. So I know.
I don't have. I'm looking to see. I thought I had a picture of that, but I don't. I didn't take a picture of that. Yeah, but that's what we were talking about last week. Like Lewis said, there's sites that you go to that have all that stuff. It's cataloged, and people kind of give it away. It's freeware. Yeah. So if it was something like, I don't know how it is on the. I should talk to my friend Paul, because he has a laser cutter and he has a 3D printer. So I don't know if you could. If there's going to be a file up there for a throttle body gasket. But a lot of guys, the better guys, they'll actually make it in a CAD program. They'll draw it out. It's always nice if you can just pick something that's already made. And then you just program it in, put your material in, press go, and go get a coffee. But I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, until they find out how to tax us on that, we can do it. So I hate sounding that way, but
I know.
God forbid we make something that we need for a car or a part or whatever.
Just like Lewis was saying, I talked to this guy Tom, and he was saying that with the plastic, he said, yeah, I get rolls of this stuff from Bamboo. They're maybe like $16-18 a roll, and a roll lasts a long time. He goes, but I'm on this site, and they'll send deals out, like a flash deal, and they'll have like 6 or 8 boxes. And he says, you don't get to pick what colors, or it's like 6 or 8 boxes, take it or leave it, and it's like $6 a box, $6 a roll. He goes, and I'll do that. He goes, because sometimes I get a color that I wouldn't have bought before, and I'll use it on, I can maybe use it for scrap stuff or just test. He goes, well, maybe it ends up, making kind of a cool part. So I guess there's deals out there, but I just don't have a place to put the damn thing. I'm that tight on space.
Move to a bigger house, Ray.
I know.
Well, he's been working on it. That's the problem.
I'm in a pretty big house already. That's the problem. And every time I bring it up to my wife, I just bring it up in passing. Just like, yeah, the guys are talking about a 3D printer. Lewis thinks I should really get one. And she's like, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, really? Uh-huh. Where's that gonna go? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, hon. I don't know. I'm just
on,
kidding. I'm just kidding.
on the kitchen counter. That's where it's going to go, next to the coffee machine.
Right. Oh. I tell you, we had to go to the mall today to make some returns for my daughter. And we go into Williams Sonoma. I don't know if you got one of those by you.
No.
It's it's kind of like a women's store, but it's for kitchen. It's all for kitchen stuff. They sell actually appliances, and they sell all sorts of uh, great mixes. Pancake and waffle mixes, different oils, all sorts of stuff. Knife sets. But right now, they're featuring their cappuccino espresso machines prominently in the middle of the store, from 600 up to $5,000. These things are. I'm
Wow.
like, whoa, baby. It's like, yeah, there we go. That's
Do
it's
you
like,
know how many cups of that crap you can buy?
yeah, right. So my wife said tonight, me and my daughter were having dinner, and she said I brought it up, and I told my daughter Jenny, I said, yeah, they had one that's really kind of cool. They called it the dual metal version, so it was like chrome and like gold, really high end looking. I said that's really cool looking. So my wife says, she goes, I think what we're gonna do is if we ever get Dad to clean up his crap and pack his stuff up and move, that's what we're gonna get him as a moving present. I'm like, oh, good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Uh-oh.
What's falling over there? What's going on?
Oh, it's the I knocked into the pieces for the bottom of the fender.
Oh yeah, the metal.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, so I don't know if all this crazy stuff's going to affect parts like that. I was just talking to someone the other day, and they were putting an AMD order in for some stuff. Uh, Trying to wonder if they were going to be, if the prices were going up again. I don't know. Probably.
I haven't really noticed. I
That's
did make I did make a little wish list, but again, like I said, I'm not. I've got, again, I got to watch it. I end up buying so many doubles or multiples. I already bought a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah.
So I need to kind of, I dig through and I find stuff. So I try not to, gotta watch not buying multiples because I do have multiples of stuff.
Yeah, the only way to really do that is if you can take the stuff and like catalog it and shelve it labeled so you could actually see what you got. I did the same thing. I've sometimes bought 3 and 4 of the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, that was stupid.
Yeah. Well, I started out that way. And I'm still in the middle of, because like I said, it never fell. It's just like with my broken tools. I can get an order. I mean, I got my broken tools and I can get them all boxed up, get them all ready, kind of walk around to make sure I got them all. As soon as I put that label, stick it on there and put it to FedEx, I turn a corner and there's a pile, there's a box and more broken tools in the corner of the garage. And
Well, yeah, but see, that shouldn't stop you. The box should go, and that becomes now the next order.
I know, but you always look, like I said, I look around to say, make sure I get everything at the time.
Yeah. No, I got you. I know.
It never fails, and that's what I did. It was funny when I got I have a 9-inch rear, and when I got I got all that stuff out, was looking, and got the coilovers, and the brackets for all that stuff. And it's like, okay, I think I got everything here. And of course, like you said, I put it all together, and in the other shed, I did make room. But like you said, and all of a sudden, I opened up another box. And I had another whole set of that, that I bought somewhere along the line.
Yeah,
and like I said, it's just multiples of multiples, and
Get
Yeah,
your
then the
raw
idea is you could
trim ones.
sell some of it off. Obviously, that's one way to deal with
Yeah, eventually or hopefully or
it. Yeah,
whatever.
that's what I say. Same thing. Eventually or hopefully.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's like spindles. Man, I don't even remember. You know, I guess somewhere along the line, I have the original spindles for the 65, 66. And then, of course, back in the day, the big thing was the Lincoln Versailles and the
Uh huh.
Granada, finding spindles for that. And basically, all those spindles for the Fords are pretty much all the same. The only big difference was as the bigger tire, as it got a bigger tire, it had a bigger bearing, uh, wheel
Yeah.
bearings. And
Right.
that's
Right.
one of on the first generation, the 64 to 66, that's one of the big weaknesses when you start running if you start running a bigger tire, you have a smaller bearing.
Right.
And of course, one of the things is that you don't have adjustments for your camber and caster,
Uh
and
huh.
you have tie rod issues. So they do make a kit or a substitute where you can put the bigger tie rod, the right tie rod, because that is a little bit off.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm digging around and find a old milk carton, and there's a set of Granada spindles, there's a set
Uh,
of Versailles, and then I even have a set for a Fox body, because that's the new thing now, is converting over to a Fox body, because there's all that stuff, especially if you go with an independent front end or steering rack. And
well,
I'm
that
like, I don't
stuff
even
is
remember picking this stuff up.
no,
I don't
no.
even
But
know how it came.
the good thing is that stuff is highly resellable.
Yes. Yes.
It's like same thing I did. I bought a set of spindles when I was putting my car together. I was told to get the big spindles, the big. So I got a set of spindles off a Colonnade body GM, which is like a 73 to 77, whatever. And then and it takes the bigger rotor, has the bigger bearing. I tried putting them on the car with my Global West suspension, and the ball joints didn't fit. And I'm like, huh. So I call up Global West and I said, listen, this is the problem I got. The stuff isn't fitting. He goes, okay, let me look up your stuff. And it was actually kind of comical because he said, yeah, I see that was all you ordered all that stuff together. Um, he said that was wrong. He goes, you need the standard spindle, the one you had, and it'll give you a 1 inch drop. And I said, all right. He says, well, who placed this order for you? And this is the guy Doug, who's the president of Global West. And I had the paperwork in front of me, so I gave him the name. I don't remember what it was, so I'll say, it was Jim. He goes, oh, that's my son. He says, I got to talk to him. He goes, yeah. So you don't need those spindles. You need the other spindles. And I'm like, okay, but everything else is going to fit, right? He goes, yeah, everything else will fit. That'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So now I got a set of spindles with brand new rotors. I actually bought new spindles, new rotors, new bearings and races, assembled it all, and they're sitting under my pool table, just waiting to go to a new home. Like, who needs Colonnade body spindles and rotors? I got a setup for you.
You never put them on yours?
Well, no, because I couldn't, because the ball joints didn't fit.
Oh, I thought he didn't take them back.
No, I bought them from a local auto parts store. I didn't buy them from him. I
yeah.
bought them from locally. And
Yeah.
that's how good the parts store is by me. They had spindles in their warehouse.
Wow, that is a good place.
Yeah, and the rotors, and of course the bearings and all. So, but they didn't have a throttle body gasket. So, you take what you can get.
Well, that was also a different time frame too.
Yeah, that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they still have that stuff. I mean, the guy that owns the store, he is a hoarder. When I was building the car, one of my buddies was working there, and I used to go in and when I was looking, I had put a radiator hose on my car. It was kind of weird. In my year, the radiator outlet should be on the passenger side, but mine's on the driver's side. Somewhere along the line, they switched it when I had one of the tank jobs done. So I had a radiator hose that came out perfectly up out of the water neck. It made a nice little curve and went straight to the radiator. And I knew it wasn't made for my car, and I didn't know what it was. So I'm searching through the radiator hoses. I was like, every day I'd go up there and they would just tell me, yeah, go in the back, just have at it. We'll see you in an hour or so. And I'd be searching through these radiator hoses. And I said, I think it was like a Chrysler. And it was. It's sort of like a 273, like the early Barracudas or Darts. That's the exact hose. So now I saved the tag and I bought a spare. I bought a second one. But regardless, I'm in there one day and this store, it doesn't look that big. But when you go into the aisles and the back aisles, even the guys there, like, they could get lost. It's set up really weird. And you want to drop crumbs. Or you want to listen, like, where's the counter? You're trying to want to hear where the voices are so you know how to get back.
Yeah.
So at one point, the aisles are narrow. I mean, they're maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet max. Then they put boxes on the floor. Now it's like, 1.5 feet. And you see guys in there with a ladder and they're trying to get to the top and all sorts of crazy stuff. So I cut down one aisle, and what do I see? The whole aisle on the floor is filled like 4 feet high with Felpro boxes of Felpro gaskets. But I know they had all the Felpro up stored on the shelves. So I asked my buddy Daryl, I said, what's with all the Felpro on the floor? He goes, oh, that's Dwayne. He goes, yeah, he sits up at night on eBay, or and he buys out, he'll find stores going out of business and he'll just buy the lot. I was like, but you guys are fully stocked in Felpro. He says, yeah, I know. He goes, but now we're double fully stocked on Felpro. He goes, we're stocked on Felpro till everybody here dies.
Yeah.
But they never throttle body gasket.
Yeah.
So I guess, this stuff was probably older. It was probably a store that was in business for 100 years and they were going out. So
yeah, back in the day when I worked at the auto parts store, we had it was funny because our store was based off of another store, when they expanded.
Okay.
And it was funny. One day I'm going through and, you had the AP exhaust.
Right.
And, we had these, just aisles and aisles of exhaust and they're hanging up, Do
you remember some of the other brand names, by the way?
Well, we had Walker and you had AP. You had AP.
There was a third one. Started with an M.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you got it. You almost said it. You're there. You got it, man. You got it. Come on,
I know what you're. I just can't.
Marymount.
Yes, there, Marymount. Yeah.
I knew you had it.
So one day I'm, of course, like I said, being who I am, I'm going through this exhaust and, like I said, I love the catalogs. And like I said, you're always looking. And I come across this exhaust and it was no bigger than this, it was just a little round. It was real long, it had a couple little bends in it,
Right.
And I was like, what the hell is this? And it went to a Model T or something. You know what I'm saying? That's how, that's the stuff that we had in our inventory. And it was like crazy. And like I said, back in the day, I ran, because it was cheap. But I had, it was for a 72 GSX and they were resonators.
Oh, okay.
And that's the exhaust I had on the Mustang because they were 2.5, and that's what I ran. And they were, like I said, they were cheap, and that's what I still have on the pipes. That's what I still have.
Back in the day, after I got over my headers into those tube, and I think I had Marymount tube mufflers. They were like a mustard color.
Yeah.
It looked like a cherry bomb, but it wasn't. I think it was a Marymount because I got them when I worked at the auto parts store, and I got them, probably cheap. They used to asphyxiate me all the time. But anyway, when I finally decided to go to a full exhaust, the hot thing back then was guys were saying going with Hemi mufflers because they were kind of longer, but they were low restriction. And I went to one of the exhaust shops and had them put Hemi mufflers on for me. And then and they were on my car until I took it apart. They were on there forever.
So. Yeah, it was funny. Like I said, I always enjoy digging through the books and digging through and finding stuff. And
And there you go. The books, the parts
book,
books.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And the interchange. That's like way back. Like I said, same thing with my radiator, because my radiator was only like 19 inches or whatever. It was a small radiator, 2-core, and digging through the books, it wasn't until 67 when they went to the 24-inch opening. But I found, of course, trying to get the outlets right, digging around, and I found it for like a Fairlane or whatever, because that was even a bigger radiator, and made the brackets and put it in, and never had a problem. But again, like I said, those were the good old days. I know you can rely on the internet and you can punch things in, but again,
even when I had my Monte Carlo back in the 80s, I had a 73, and I took the small block out and I put a big block in it, and I said, okay, I got to do a suspension. So I got a Moog book. I have it over here on the shelf, and I looked up. I was looking up springs by spring rate. So I don't remember. I did look up what the big block car, like the 72, had, and I found the matching spring rates in the Moog book, and I just ordered the springs, four brand new coil springs, and like Gabriel gas shocks.
Yeah.
Put them in there, and that car rode great. It rode really good. But again, it was just going to the book and doing an interchange. And this is like what we've talked about a couple times, where a lot of shops, a lot of places go ape shit when you tell them you're going to put a part on a car that the book says won't fit.
Right.
It's like, well, my book says it's going to fit.
Right.
Well, what book do you have? Yeah, the one that I wrote, because I know it's going to fit, or I know I can make it fit, or whatever.
Yeah.
And some of those guys, and like I say, that's like that dealer mentality, where guys would say, "Oh no, well if GM or Ford didn't put it on, no, you shouldn't, you can't do it." And like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Watch.
No, I mean it's absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's like we said, they don't. If it ain't, well, of course of course today, it's the liability. Well, I can't sell you that part because it doesn't go to that car. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to be. It's.
Yeah.
You go out and buy it and put it on and have a problem. Well, they sold it to me, so we're all so gun shy about being liable for anything. Nobody wants to give you an answer anyway. So,
well, again, it's like I was just saying, with that Impala job I did, when I looked it up and saw it and scratched my head, and the parts guy says I ordered the brake hoses and he was going to give me 5 hoses. Like 5 hoses. It's a 4-wheel drum brake car. There's 3 hoses. But I took the 5. I said, okay, you know what? Maybe there's something I don't know about a 65 Impala. I don't know. And when I got it up in the air, I looked, I said, no, there's 3 hoses. So, because I had seen that when I looked it up, I did through the aftermarket places. And I said, somebody somewhere transposed something wrong in the database. They transposed a figure. Maybe a 65 Corvette with disc brakes would have 5 hoses.
Yeah.
So maybe that got transposed on the database, and everybody uses that same database now. So they're going to swear to it. Like, no, well, that's what the book says. So I'm telling them, I said, listen, I'm not going to argue with you today. I said, tomorrow I'm going to stick it up your ass, because I'm with 98%, 99% certainty the car only has 3 hoses. But I'm going to go and put it in the air, and I'm going to find out. And when I came back, and threw them on the counter, I said, yeah, I was right. I said, your book is wrong.
Yeah. Well, the internet, or the computer, that's the problem.
Right.
That's where we've lost some of that, because like you said, all it takes is one guy to do the Fred Flintstone fat finger. And all of a sudden it's now changed because there's nobody checking it.
That's it.
And, you go down the road and you're like, well, when did that change? Yeah. And then, you're saying, am I losing it, or is that the way it is?
Right.
And that's why I love my books. It's just like the catalog, my old tool catalogs. We're all everything's online, and everybody keeps saying, it's funny when somebody says, hey, does anybody know what this part number to this tool is? And of course I send a picture of the part number from the catalog, and they're like, why aren't you using the computer? Well, I can find it a whole hell of a lot faster, and I know nobody's played around with or put the wrong part number in.
Right.
So that's another big problem with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's your experience. I mean, I do the same thing. I go to a, I have one down here and I have one in the garage. It's a, it was the high grade book, carburetor book, and I get a carburetor on the bench. And the first thing I do is I crack open the high grade book and I look it up and I get like a kit. I used to get the kit number because I used to buy the high grade kit. Now I don't. Now I'm using Mike's.
Yeah.
But any pertinent information, it's all in there, and I can get application. I can get anything, stuff that I need at a glance, and it's just so much easier. It's natural for us to go to a book and open it up. And truthfully, I like having the book on the bench. I was just working on my car yesterday, and I have some schematics I had to pull out, and I had some blown up schematics and engineering drawings, and I'm sitting there. I got the music on. I had a drink. I had a cigar going, and I said, you know what? I put them on the trunk of my car, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking. I'm like, wait a minute. I need one more thing. And I reached over and I grabbed my my scribing awl because I got to have something in my hand when I look at a schematic because I.
Follow along.
And then when I put my hand down to that schematic, I instantly felt it. I was in my happy place. Like, okay, now I can trace these wires. I can see what I got to do, and I feel good about it. So, but a lot of people, obviously don't even speak that language, so I get it.
Yeah.
But
Boy, my wife does. She does not like computers to look things up. She likes books.
Yeah.
okay, yeah. That's great. I mean, I will say, for a lot of normal things, I will go to the computer just because it's so damn easy. If you just want to look something up quick, it's just so easy, and it's in your hand if you got a phone. I mean, it's Star Trek and Dick Tracy. I was talking to that guy, Chris Petras, about it. I said, because he's a couple of years older than me. So he's between me and you, Papa Squirrel. He's right between us. I think he said he was born in 55. So, yeah, he's just a couple years older than me. But I said to him, yeah, like we're of that generation where that's what we like to do. That's how we do it. It's our go-to. It's, I mean, just watch anybody younger now. I mean, I can't tell you how many toolboxes I see with computer monitors on them. Everybody's got a computer, it seems.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of stuff is only done that way. I mean,
Right.
Your shop key and all those formats.
Yeah.
Everything is done. Even they don't even have paper ROs anymore, or it's very rare.
Really?
Because it's all they type everything in.
Yeah.
They may have their hard copy. They may have a hard copy for them.
Right.
But like I said, everything is typed in, put in, and done. I mean, it's. I would definitely be lost. Because I guess the time of limitations is over. I used to run two time clocks. I had 2 punch clocks. Today, when you're using the punch clock on the computer, as soon as you start another car, it logs you off on the other one. So
wow.
You can't run you can't run dual punch times to get to pay your time or whatever. So, like I said, anything to. It's funny. I hate to say keep you honest, but it's hard to make the money. Or like I said, when you need punch time, to run for a certain thing. It's like when we had to charge a battery up, they wanted to see 12 hours punch time because they wanted the battery charged for 12 hours.
Oh,
well,
wow.
I can't stand there and watch a battery charge for 12 hours.
No, not at all.
So you plug it in, put it on a charger, punch the ticket, and go do something else. I guess they might have a way around that on that particular thing, but I'm just using it as an example for they want to see that it was done by spec or by the order.
Even when I go and get my inspections, I always got to tell the guys, no, print me a receipt. I want to, and like I'll have maybe the guys at the shop order me something, and I'll pay for it. But I'll tell them, what, I need the receipt. Well, we need it for. I said, copy it. Give me a copy of it. I said, I got to have paper. I got to have a paper copy.
Yeah.
I said, that's how it works. So, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you need that paper copy because I've gone to banks to ask for a loan. They want a paper copy of my accounts,
Yeah.
right.
but they
Yeah.
don't send them to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of everything has been trying to push you to paperless, and I resisted. I still get stuff. Send me the bill in the mail. I want the paper
Yeah.
copy. I want the bill.
They even try to trick you. You got to be careful because they'll trick you. If you don't read it correctly, you'll say okay and realize you agreed to do
I've
it, and
actually
then
done that.
right, and then you had to go back. You're like, hey, I didn't get a statement, and then you had to go in there and find that you're paperless, and you go back in and change it.
The sneakiest one was DMV, because I would get an email I get an email notification that my inspections are up now.
Right.
I get an email notification that my registration is up at a certain time. Okay. And it used to be a week or two later I'd get the renewal in the mail. And then I would go online and I'd renew it online instead of going to DMV.
Yeah.
And once I started doing that, it took a little while, but then I noticed like I'm not getting them in the mail anymore because I do it online. Now they do it, they send it to me online. And I got to remember, because I get a lot of emails and they stack up. So next thing you know, that DMV email is out of sight on the page, And I'm like, oh shit. So
Yeah.
I print it and stick it somewhere that I hopefully try to remember it. I actually put a list on my calendar. I got a calendar I look at every day, and I put a list up there of all the cars and what month the registration, when the registration. Not really. No, I'm sorry. I think I might have done a couple of the registration, but what I did it for was when the inspections are up, so I know which month. I got to go. Like tomorrow, I got to go down and do 2 of them in the morning.
Two of the cars.
Yeah, the Impala and the Pontiac are both up at the end of this month.
Oh,
So got to do that tomorrow. So
even you don't have historic tags.
I don't have historic on anything. No.
Oh,
I didn't do historic. Now what I did do, and our registrations are 2 year. They're 2 year, except because I put a World's Fair plate on my GTO. So that's it's a black plate with
Right.
yellow numbers. It's kind of cool. It's like an old California plate. That is a special, and it's cheaper. It's actually less because I own the plate. So, but that becomes now a 1 year registration. So every year I have to re-register that car.
oh wow.
And then the inspection. Now they're all safety inspections. I think out of the 7 cars, only 2 of them are emissions. Yeah, the Cruise and the FJ are the only 2 that get, they got to get the ALDL scope. Everything else is all just safety. So that's good. At least that's only 10. That's $10. But
Huh. Yeah, they changed our registration because it's like 2 years. 2 years for cars. Anything over 10,000 pounds is 1 year, which I thought was kind of odd because this year was the first year where if I wanted to, I could buy, instead of 1 year, I could do either optional 2 or 3 years
oh, okay.
in that. But the only thing of it is, the bottom line, it would have been all right if they gave you a break on, hey, whatever it is, we'll just use easy numbers. It's $200 a year. And, if you bought 3, it's still $600. I mean, it wasn't a break. Right. If it was like, hey, it's $450 or something, then I might do it for the 3 years. But they're, which I think is kind of funny because anything over 10,000 pounds, or you have your, you still have to have your yearly check or check on the DOT wise. So I don't know how they can still give you your tags for the 3 years and still have that, but I don't want to get politically right now. I still have a black SUV driving around my front.
No, there was some good news about Maryland in the paper the last 2 days. with the redistricting and all, so things looks like it was going the better way,
Uh-huh.
the way I see it at least. So that's good news.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I
it's
know.
it's definitely
I just found it interesting too that they would put a story, and it was a small little blurb, but it hit both of the New York papers that I read. I'm like, all right, I don't know. I don't know what I don't get
you get a lot of our business up there. Of course, like I said, I here, being here and being so close to ground zero, we don't really have local news. Everything is national news.
Oh yeah.
So when it's our local news is like 15 minutes
Yeah.
because they got to tell everything in the world what's going on. So it's kind of weird how some people never hear or never know what's really going on locally that way. And then they're surprised or blindsided because they're like, hey, when did this happen? Or why is that way? And it's like, dude, got to, but again, it's just organized chaos.
Yeah. So now we got something going on up here. It happened in the city twice, once right by Penn Station, and now it happened out here on Long Island. They're catching these guys coming out of manhole covers, and there's like 4 and 5 of them. And in the city, this guy comes out. He's wearing like a pair of, farmer's overalls with no shirt, black overalls. Well, not overalls. Bib overalls. A black hat and gloves, but no shirt. And he comes up and he just like crouches with his legs like a frog, and he starts looking around, and then takes off. They just like 5 of them come out of the manhole. So they was speculating and saying, well, maybe they're on some kind of treasure hunt. It's like, treasure hunt? It's like, it's a sewer system.
Yeah.
What are they looking for treasure? Well, just on tonight's news, I saw here, only, I'm going to say maybe 3-4 miles away from here where I am, at an intersection, a security camera caught guys. Were they going in or coming out? I forget. I think they were going in. And then the police were called. Cops went down, didn't find anybody, didn't find traces of anything. And now, of course, the whole thing is with 9/11, with the 25th anniversary of 9/11 coming up.
Yeah.
Countries have been saying they're gonna strike us and whatever, and like, well, there's something to look at. I mean, if they're getting it, I mean, after 9/11, you could, God forbid, if you took a picture near a bridge or a historic building, they were hauling you off, man. You were being interrogated. So now they got these guys on camera going in and out of these sewers and water channels. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So my daughter was kind of freaked out about it in the city because she's like, she had to go in, and she's like, yeah, it's kind of weird. So I told her this morning when she was going to work, I said, watch out for the manhole covers, Jen. I said, don't go jumping down any holes.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out what's going on there. That's
yeah,
because that's a whole net. I mean, running around in those sewer. I mean, running around that's a whole network, dude. That's like I said, when I was younger and lived out in Oklahoma, we ran in the sewers, dude. That
Really?
that was kind of that was different. That was a little different, and like I said, you would run along and like I said, it was a whole network underneath there, and you come up one side and come out, and like I said, it got a little weird sometimes.
Do you remember the episode of Adam 12? These guys were pulling bank jobs.
Yes.
And they couldn't be found. And they were in the manhole. They were in the sewers. That was where the lookout was, and that's where they caught them. But, of course, when they go down there, everything was clean and dry. There was like a little trickle of water going down. Like,
no. It's all, like I said, it was fairly interesting.
I think they may have to start doing what they do when the president comes in and lock down the sewer caps. Like, not necessarily weld them, but find some way to, put some locking tabs on them or something so that, I mean, obviously anybody can come up with a, make a key, I guess, if they really want to try hard enough. But
Yeah. Well, they, like I said, they weld them. I mean, that's my dad, told stories of sitting down in a sewer with a platoon of guys, army guys, waiting. They had to pop out, and they would go through. And of course, back in the old days, like I said, when the man came through, everything was gone. You didn't have any newspaper. You couldn't get a newspaper thing, mailboxes, all that stuff was
Yeah.
all picked up. There was nothing left around, and
Right.
manhole covers, and were welded and so forth. So, like I said, it's a whole network under there, and like I said, I find that kind of, I don't want to say interesting, but
well, it is
curious to see.
interesting. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously, the guys in the water company, sewer company, they got to go down there, so they have to be able to get in. So welding may not be the whole answer, but something to slow these guys down.
I got a couple buddies that work for the metro here, and they go down and they have like the fresh elevator shafts, fresh air shafts, where they have the fans, where they're pumping air down into the sewer and so forth. I mean, not in the sewer, but the subway. And I've never been. I'd like to go, but they take pictures or whatever, and that's fairly interesting too. That's like I said, it's a whole nother world down there. It's when you got those guys that have to service and take care of that stuff, and it's like I said, it's movable. I mean, there's people, there's people there,
Yeah, yeah.
So be underground. I don't know. Maybe we'll all end up underground. Don't worry.
Maybe, yeah. Well, that way, yeah. So yeah, that's the craziness going on around here, and of course, being so close to 9/11. I mean, I think I heard one person mention it. I think nobody wants to talk about it because they did find that there were strikes already on some of the water plants. I think it was in Illinois, and I think upstate. They also said they found the Chinese had hacked into NASA, into the DOJ websites, a bunch of government websites. I'm like, wow. And then they found it, shut it down, and I don't know what kind of damage they did. I just got a thing the other day, a thing in the mail from some health organization I didn't know, telling me that my medical data may have been hacked. So they'll provide this the service to protect whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't they protect it beforehand? And then I read in the paper that all these facilities, it was one of the big hospitals too, had gotten hacked. So that may tie into that. That may be where that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're and that's what Iran said. They had actually said about a week ago, they're pretty much crippled in every. Although they do say things that don't make sense, because they did say they would attack anybody who comes out against them. They will attack them with their army, with their navy, with their air force. Well, the army's been decimated. The navy is underwater. The air force, half of that's underwater too. They don't have any of them, but they're still saying they're going to use them to full force. And cyber, with cyber's attacks. And I'm thinking, right, you guys are screwed. But then I read, and they said that that's the one thing that they're actually really good at is the cyber stuff. And I'm thinking, better than us, better than other, like, really, the sand jockeys are good at cyber stuff. I don't know, but apparently they are. And now, like I said, these water plants have been targeted. One of them here in New York. There was one upstate. They were trying to. Oh no, that was another story I'm thinking of. There was a woman who wanted to blow up the capital in New York. Tried to blow it up when the Senate was in session. I said, well, let's not. We can't talk about that now. That's not something we can talk about right now. But they caught her, and she was a flipped jihadist. So I don't know. You know what we should do? We should end this live so we can speak freely, and then we can continue on. So,
You can talk about the things that you don't want recorded.
yeah, exactly.
Hopefully.
So for Lewis Lee, who's off tonight, we'll see him again next week. Matt Man Brian, Papa Squirrel, Ray Guarino. That's it for Playing in Traffic this week. We'll be back next week with more. I'm sure Lewis will have something cool to talk about, probably 3D printing wise. And he may want to talk about the California tire thing too. So
Yeah, well, we'll see how that unfolds. I mean, this
Yeah.
is all started, and like I said, I hate jumping to the gun about it, but man, it's just like I said, it's a shame that they just have to keep cranking the screw and causing issues or
Yeah.
whatever. So we'll see what happens.
yep, we will. And you know what? Sunday, check out Motormouth Radio. Chris Petras, C4 Corvette author and modifier will be on. So that should be a good show. And yeah, that's it. So until then, guys, over and
Take
out.
care.
See ya.
Good night, guys.